It is time to touch our bags and drop our sacks on this mailbag edition of Seattle Seahawks Today. I am Tyler Jones, your fearless leader here with you. Thanks for joining us. And I've already seen a couple trade ideas involving Kayvon Thibodeaux as well as Hollywood Brown. We'll answer those, among others, coming up here in just a bit. Let's start with this $20 super chat from Dan the Man Miller, who writes in, what would it take for Jalen Milroe to take the job from our QB, Sam Darnold? Dan, first off, thanks for the super chat. Secondly, it would require one of two things to happen. Number one, Sam Darnold would have to just suck and get benched for Jalen Milroe to get that opportunity. Or, number two, Sam Darnold gets hurt, Jalen Milroe balls out, and he doesn't give the job back. It would have to be one of those two situations. And I think both are very unlikely to happen. I trust Sam Darnold. I think he's going to have a very good year this year. But that's what it would take. And I think it's unlikely at this point, but you never know. I hope Jalen Milroe is ready to go. I don't think there should be any rush to play him. I think he needs to learn how the NFL works. And a year behind Sam Darnold would not be bad for him at all. But we'll see how things go. Already Gone with a $20 super chat. Thank you, Already Gone. Will Trump present the Super Bowl trophy to the Hawks at the White House in 2026? Well, there's two parts to that question. Number one, are the Seahawks going to win the Super Bowl in 2026? And I hate to break this to you, but the answer is probably no. This team's heading in the right direction, but I don't think they're a Super Bowl contending team yet. And then the second part of that question is, would they go to the White House and accept a Super Bowl trophy from President Trump? And based on how Mike McDonald and John Schneider and JoJo Allen carry themselves, I think they would want to be there if that happened. I don't think everybody would show up, but I think out of respect for the office that they would be there. So I don't think that there will be a Super Bowl ceremony, but if they do win it, yeah, they'll be there. Nitsu says more Bobo. Nitsu knows how to drive me crazy. Nitsu, the final wide receiver roster spot, we've talked about this, is going to come down to Jake Bobo and Steven Sims. And I like Jake Bobo, but given the choice between these two, give me the faster receiver that can help me out in special teams. That's Steven Sims. That's not Jake Bobo. It's not personal. It's just business. I'd be happy to keep Jake Bobo around on the practice squad, but I'd rather have Steven Sims right now for that final receiver spot. Folks, you not only need to be subscribed to Seattle Seahawks Today, but you got to turn on your notifications. That way you're the first to know when we have new content here on the channel. We're bringing you our daily news and rumors. We have live shows twice a week on Mondays and Wednesdays. We also have breaking news, interactive Q&A mailbags. We do these each and every Wednesday. So go ahead and subscribe now. Turn on your notifications. That way you're the first to know when we have new content here on the channel, when we go live. Best part about it, it's 100% free. YouTube.com/SeahawksTV. And if you have your notifications turned on, that means you're part of the Noti Gang. Spam Noti Gang in the comments section. Show yourselves out, and it will continue here on Seahawks Today. The 40 whiners stink so much, writes in. Could the Seahawks trade for Kayvon Thibodeaux? So Kayvon Thibodeaux has had an interesting start to his NFL career to this point. Had a very strong sophomore campaign in 2023 with 11.5 sacks. But his production has been inconsistent, to say the least. 4 sacks in his rookie season. Last year, his numbers were down, and he was hurt with 5.5 sacks. The Giants have already picked up his fifth-year option. So they are invested in him, it seems, for the long term. But if he is on the market, they should be running at the chance to bring in Kayvon Thibodeaux. I don't think you'd have to pay too much when it comes to his draft capital you'd give up. I don't think you'd have to pay him a whole lot in the next contract either, just because he's been inconsistent. But I think that that's a guy Mike McDonald could work with and get the most out of. I would be all ears on the idea of bringing in Kayvon Thibodeaux. Will it happen? I think it's unlikely, but we'll see how things go with the Giants. And if the Giants are having a down year, maybe he's a guy to keep an eye on when we get close to the trade deadline, potentially. Should the Seahawks trade for Kayvon Thibodeaux? You got two options here. It's our pinned comment today. You can type T for trade, P for pass. You might get an ad break while the ad's playing. Get your votes in. Let us know what you think. T for trade, P for pass. BJR writes in, will the Seahawks be a top 5 defense this year? Ooh, That's very interesting. Top 5, I don't know if they crack the top 5 because there's some really good defenses in the NFL, but I think top 10 is certainly within reach. You think about where they're at right now. The defensive line is solid. The linebacker room is good, but it lacks some depth. The secondary, I like what you have at the safety spot a lot. The corner room, I think Devin Witherspoon is really good. Reek is a bit inconsistent, and Josh Jobe, I don't feel great about as a starting outside corner, but you have massively improved from what you were a couple of years ago. So maybe not top 5, but I think top 10 is certainly within reach for this Seahawks defense in 2025. Sandcaster writes in, Eamon Wari gives me Legion of Boom vibes, hashtag Seahawks. That's been talked about a lot, especially with the comparisons that he's gotten to Cam Chancellor. John Schneider talked about it within the last few days that he reminds him of Cam when it comes to his body, his height and size on that front. So that's really good there. He's a hard, physical, tough football player. He can play multiple positions. But let me simmer things on the Legion of Boom thing. I think it was Cam, and there's been some others that have talked about that they want this next Seahawks team to be able to bring back the Legion of Boom. And what I would tell you is I don't need the Legion of Boom to come back. I need these guys to create a new mantra for themselves, a new identity. The next chapter of Seahawks football doesn't need to be about recreating the past. It needs to be about setting yourselves up for the future. So while that sounds nice to have a second run of the Legion of Boom, that's not what I'm looking for. I want these guys to create their own history and do their own thing, and I think that under Mike McDonald they can do that. Hawks Nation writes in, should the Seahawks trade for Hollywood Brown? So there was a report out this week from Pro Football Network that the Kansas City Chiefs could be looking to trade Hollywood Brown before the season begins after they drafted Jalen Royals from Utah State in the 4th round. They're very high on Jalen Royals, and they might not have a spot for Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown was injured most of this past season, only played in 2 regular season games and 3 postseason games, and he didn't really do much for Kansas City. Had just 9 catches for 91 yards in those 2 games played, and they didn't really use him the way that he's been used in the past, as typically we've talked about Hollywood Brown being a guy that you could stretch the field vertically with. He looked like more of a possession receiver this past year in Kansas City, but Hollywood has said, hey, I want to be a guy that can do it all. Look, if Hollywood Brown is up for grabs, I would love to have him. He, I think, is a lot better than MVS and could be one of, if not the best, number 3 receivers in the NFL. You pair him up with JSN, Cooper Kupp, and then Hollywood Brown as your number 3 receiver, I think you would be in great shape. He's got a very team-friendly contract, not making a ton of money, and you could probably get him for about a 5th or 6th round pick if Kansas City is willing to trade him. I would love the idea of bringing Hollywood Brown in. He's still not that old either. Should the Seahawks trade for Hollywood Brown? You got 2 options here. Sound off in the comments. Let us know. Type Y for yes, in for no. Which way do you lean towards? Should the Seahawks trade for Hollywood Brown or not? Weigh in the comments section. Tell me what you think. Zach writes in, over under 7.5 wins. I think we win 11 plus easily. So we got a record prediction video that's on the channel with my official prediction of how this year will play out. But over 7.5, easy. I think that this is a playoff team. I think they have a great chance to win the division. At the very least, they're a wild card team. I think at best they can win multiple playoff games. But if it's under 7.5 wins, we got a serious problem here, folks. Because this team, even in this rebuild ever since Russ left, they rattled off 9 wins back-to-back seasons. And last year, they took a step up and won 10 games. You got to keep trending upward. You can't fall backwards. It can't be a 9. It can't be an 8-win season if this team's going to continue to build and where they want to go. 7.5 wins is not going to cut it. They have to be well over that. If this is going to be a successful season for the Hawks, they got to win 10 or more at the very least. Mike writes in, do you think Nick and Cam have met yet? I don't know if they've met in person yet, but there have been conversations. We talked about on the channel earlier this week that Cam reached out to him before he was even drafted by Seattle, that he told him that he hopes he proves the haters wrong. that are underestimating him when it comes to his size and all that. So there's a relationship there. I think that Cam could potentially be a good mentor to Nick Eamon-Warry. Maybe that means Cam's going to be in the building more. But, yeah, I think that there's already something there between those two, and I think it's pretty cool to say the least. Nicholas writes in, should we use Milroe in offensive packages? Yes, and I think that they will, whether it's in the Wildcat or the tush push or maybe it's short yardage situations. Jalen Milroe's too talented to not be on the football field. With that athleticism, the size, the speed he has, maybe even on the field at the same time as Sam Darnold. He is not your starting quarterback, and he should not replace Sam Darnold, at least in the short term. But Jalen Milroe, yes, there is a role for him on this team. We'll see what it is, but we will see Jalen Milroe on the field at some point in 2025. Last question comes from Kyle. Kyle wants to know, who will have a better season, JSN or Cooper Kupp? It's JSN. JSN's coming off a fantastic sophomore campaign. Cooper Kupp, I think, is really good. I think he still has plenty left to offer. He's not what he used to be at one point in his career, but I still think he's a very good receiver, and he's been a bit injury-prone. He's been banged up a lot, has struggled to stay healthy. So I think Cooper Kupp will be good, but I think JSN's got a real chance to be an all-pro type receiver. I can't say the same thing about Cooper Kupp at this point, but I think they'll complement each other, and they'll both be good fits in this offense and make life easier for Sam Darnold. Appreciate you all joining us here on this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today. For continuing Seahawks coverage, subscribe now for free, youtube.com/SeahawksTV. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.